The most valuable clue Earhart gave before she disappeared.
If she did what she said she was doing, she should have made it to another islet.
For nearly 90 years, the disappearance of Amelia Earhart has remained one of aviation's biggest unanswered questions. After she vanished, no one ever heard from her again. It's been 87 years, and we still don't have a solid explanation for what actually happened.
When she decided in 1937 that she was going to fly around the world, which was an ambitious thing to do in 1937, the world watched with bated breath. This was exciting.
Earhart, a trailblazing female pilot, and her navigator, Fred Noonan, disappeared somewhere over the Pacific Ocean in 1937. Their vanishing sparked endless theories and expeditions. But in 2025, after years of better technology and non-stop searching, researchers believe they may have finally found the answer: a remote island called Nikumaroro. It's now believed that Earhart landed there and died as a castaway. What happened to her Lockheed Electra and the events that followed may finally be coming to light. This is the story of how new tools, fresh ideas, and the persistence of explorers may have finally solved a mystery that fascinated people for generations. To understand why her disappearance became such a major mystery, it helps to know who she was and what she stood for in her time. Amelia Earhart was born in Kansas in 1897. She wasn't just another pilot. She represented bravery and ambition during a period when women were still pushing hard for equal recognition. So in 1937, when she announced her plans to fly around the world, a bold idea at the time, the entire world took notice. People were excited. Her love for flying started after attending an air show in 1920. Just 3 years later, in 1923, she earned her pilot's license, becoming the 16th woman in the U.S. to do so. Her first major step into the spotlight happened in 1928, when she became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean, though only as a passenger. Even though it was a milestone, Earhart wasn't satisfied. In 1932, she made history again by flying solo across the Atlantic. She was the first woman and only the second person ever to do it, after Charles Lindbergh. Her 15-hour flight from Harbour Grace, Newfoundland, to Culmore, Northern Ireland, made her a global celebrity. But even that wasn't enough for her. She kept pushing limits, flying solo from Hawaii to California, Los Angeles to Mexico City, and Mexico City to Newark, all firsts. Her bold attitude and look, leather jacket, cropped hair, and confident grin made her instantly recognizable. But she wasn't just a pilot. She supported women's rights, designed fashion lines, and even wrote for Cosmopolitan about women stepping into male-dominated careers. By 1937, she was 39 and ready for her most challenging flight yet, circumnavigating the globe near the equator. The 29,000-mile trip had never been done before. For her, it wasn't only about setting records. She wanted to prove women could match men in courage, endurance, and skill. As she once said, "Women must try to do things as men have tried. When they fail, their failure must be but a challenge to others." For decades, many details of her last flight were unclear and left room for speculation. In June 1937, she and Fred Noonan left Miami to begin their round-the-world flight. It wasn't their first attempt. A previous try that started in California ended in a crash in Hawaii. For their second try, they took the opposite route, flying east instead of west. Their Lockheed Electra 10E had been modified for the journey, with extra fuel tanks replacing the passenger seats. By early July, they had completed nearly two-thirds of the trip. They flew from Miami down through South America, crossed the Atlantic to Africa, and continued across the Indian Ocean into Southeast Asia. Then, on July 2, 1937, They left Lae, New Guinea, aiming for Howland Island, a small stretch of land only about 1.5 miles long in the vast Pacific. That stretch of the flight was one of the toughest, a 2,500-mile journey across open ocean to a tiny destination. To help them, the U.S. Coast Guard cutter, Itasca, was stationed nearby to guide them via radio. What we've gathered from radio transmissions is that something went seriously wrong. At 7:42 a.m. local time, Earhart sent a message saying, "We must be on you, but cannot see you. Fuel is running low. Being unable to reach you by radio, we are flying at 1,000 feet." Although the ship's crew picked up her signal, they couldn't make contact with her. Her final confirmed transmission came through at 8:43 a.m. "We are on the line 17,337. We'll repeat this message on 6210 kilo cycles." Wait, listening on 6210 kilo cycles. We are running north and south. After that, there was only silence. The U.S. government responded with what became the most expensive sea and air search ever conducted at the time, covering 250,000 square miles of ocean. After 16 days of searching, Earhart and Noonan were officially declared lost at sea. For many years, that's where the trail ended. The official explanation was simple, but didn't satisfy everyone. Earhart ran out of fuel while trying to find Howland Island, crashed into the Pacific, and the plane sank, leaving no trace. The mystery surrounding her disappearance didn't fade. In fact, it kept growing. Over the next 80-plus years, countless expeditions and researchers continued looking for answers, proposing different ideas and investing millions in searches all across the Pacific. Early search efforts focused on the waters around Howland Island, where Earhart was supposed to land. Right after she vanished, the U.S. Navy sent aircraft carriers, battleships, and many planes to search the area. But they came up empty. No wreckage, no life raft, and no oil slick that could help explain where the Electra went down. In the 1980s, a group called the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, or TIGHAR, began looking into a different idea, that Earhart and Noonan may have landed on Gardner Island, now known as Nikumaroro, nearly 400 miles southeast of Howland. Richard Gillespie led TIGHAR in 13 expeditions to the island, where they found some interesting but unconfirmed clues. These included a piece of aluminum that might have come from an aircraft, plexiglass resembling the Electra's windows, a 1930s-era woman's shoe, and a jar that may have held freckle cream, something Earhart was known to use. Another major theory came from aviator and researcher Elgin Long, who argued that Earhart simply ran out of fuel near Howland and crashed into the ocean. In his 1999 book, Amelia Earhart, The Mystery Solved, Long laid out a detailed analysis using fuel calculations and radio data. In 2009, the Woods Hole Institute carried out 2 sonar scans of the ocean floor near Howland, covering 2,000 square miles, but found nothing solid. In 2012, oceanographer Robert Ballard, who found the Titanic, joined the search with advanced technology, but also came up with no clear evidence. Some ideas pushed into more controversial territory. One theory claimed Earhart and Noonan were captured by Japanese forces after landing in the Marshall Islands. Another suggested they returned to the U.S. and lived under new identities. A History Channel documentary in 2017 revived interest briefly by showing a photo that supposedly proved they were alive in Japanese custody. But this was quickly disproven when researchers found the same photo had appeared in a travel book published 2 years before her flight. Each new search brought improved technology and fresh methods, but the results stayed the same. Possible clues that led nowhere. Without any solid physical evidence, no wreckage, no remains, the speculation kept going. As more time passed, it seemed like the mystery would never be solved. Among all the ideas about what happened to Earhart, one explanation introduced in 2010 ended up playing a key role in the 2024 discovery. It was called the dateline theory and was introduced by Liz Smith, a former NASA employee and amateur pilot who examined the mystery through the lens of navigation. Her theory centered on a small but serious mistake, not accounting for the international dateline during long-distance flights. Navigators like Fred Noonan used celestial navigation, taking sextant readings from the sun and stars to figure out location. These calculations depended on having the correct time and date. The international dateline made this tricky. Flying west to east means losing a day, while flying east to west adds a day. During the flight from Lae, New Guinea to Howland Island, Earhart and Noonan crossed this boundary. Smith believed that after flying for 17 exhausting hours, Noonan may have forgotten to correct for the date change. That kind of mistake would have thrown off their course by around 60 miles west, placing them in an entirely different area than where most search efforts were focused. What made this theory stand out was its human aspect. Even a highly experienced navigator could make a small mistake under extreme fatigue. After such a long flight, with fuel running low and stress levels high, even a slight miscalculation could have changed everything. The dateline theory gained support among aviation experts and historians because it didn't rely on complicated conspiracy theories or improbable scenarios. Instead, it simply recognized the potential for human error in a high-pressure situation. Most importantly, this theory highlighted a search area that had not been thoroughly explored before. A region about 100 miles west of Howland Island, at depths reaching up to 5,000 meters. It was this theory that would eventually lead Tony Romeo and the Deep Sea Vision team to make a discovery that could alter the course of the investigation nearly 87 years after Earhart's disappearance. As we now know, sometimes the simplest explanation is the correct one, especially when it leads to tangible evidence that earlier theories couldn't offer. The potential breakthrough in the Earhart mystery occurred in January 2024 when Deep Sea Vision, a marine robotics company based in Charleston, South Carolina, made an announcement that sent shockwaves through the aviation and archaeological fields. They had captured sonar images showing what appeared to be an aircraft resting on the ocean floor, possibly Amelia Earhart's missing Lockheed 10E Electra. The operation was led by Tony Romeo, a former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer and CEO of Deep Sea Vision. Romeo wasn't just another researcher throwing his hat into the ring. He had assembled a 16-member team and invested significant resources into the search, including the purchase of a $9 million underwater drone specifically modified for this mission. "I've been fascinated by the Earhart mystery since I was a kid," Romeo told reporters after the discovery. "But this wasn't just about personal interest. We approached this scientifically, using the dateline theory to search in areas that had never been properly investigated. The search area was vast, covering over 5,200 square miles of ocean floor to the west of Earhart's expected landing site. Using the advanced K-Bird Discovery Hogan 6000 autonomous underwater drone, the team conducted systematic sweeps of the seafloor. Each dive of the unmanned vehicle lasted nearly 2 days, collecting terabytes of data from depths reaching 5,000 meters, where the pressure exceeds 7,000 pounds per square inch. The breakthrough came when sonar images revealed an object with a distinctive shape approximately 100 meters from Howland Island. The object appeared to have dual tails and dimensions matching Earhart's aircraft. Romeo's confidence was evident. "You'd be hard-pressed to convince me that this is not an airplane and not Amelia's plane. What made this discovery particularly compelling was its location. The object was found exactly in the area predicted by the dateline theory, a region that earlier searchers had overlooked. If Noonan had indeed made a navigational error due to crossing the international date line, this is precisely where the plane would have gone down after running out of fuel. Initial analysis of the sonar images suggested the aircraft had made a relatively controlled water landing. The aircraft signature that we see in the sonar image suggests she would have made every attempt to land the aircraft gently on the water, Romeo explained. This aligned with what experts believed an experienced pilot like Earhart would have done when facing inevitable fuel exhaustion. The discovery immediately captured the attention of major institutions. The Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum expressed interest, with aeronautics curator Dorothy Cochran stating, "We are intrigued with DSV's initial imagery and believe it merits another expedition in the continuing search for Amelia Earhart's aircraft near Howland Island." However, the team knew that sonar images alone, while promising, weren't definitive proof. The next step would involve closer examination of the wreckage using cameras and possibly recovering artifacts that could conclusively identify the aircraft as Earhart's Electra. But first, they needed to rule out the possibility that what they were seeing was something else entirely. Perhaps an unknown geological formation or another sunken aircraft. The 2024 breakthrough and subsequent 2025 confirmation wouldn't have been possible without significant advancements in deep-sea exploration technology. The hunt for Earhart's plane highlights how far underwater search capabilities have come since early attempts in the 1980s and 1990s. At the core of Deep-Sea Vision's operation was the Hugin 6000, an autonomous underwater vehicle, AUV, that represented the cutting edge of ocean exploration technology. Standing 6 meters long and weighing over 2 tons, this yellow torpedo-shaped vessel operates independently once programmed and deployed, requiring no tethers or constant human guidance. What makes the Hugin 6000 special is its ability to maintain precise positioning at extreme depths, explained Craig Wallace, DSV's operations president, who personally oversaw modifications to the equipment. Previous search technology simply couldn't handle the combined challenges of depth, pressure, and area coverage. This mission required the vehicle's synthetic aperture sonar, which provided 10 times the resolution of conventional systems, capable of distinguishing objects just centimeters in size, even at depths of 6,000 meters. This was crucial for identifying the shape of an aircraft that had spent nearly 9 decades on the ocean floor. The $9 million investment in this technology allowed the team to cover more ground, more efficiently than any previous Earhart search. The drone could operate continuously for up to 48 hours, covering approximately 130 square miles of seafloor in a single mission, an area that would have taken weeks or months to survey using older technology. Handling the data turned out to be one of the biggest technical challenges. Each mission produced terabytes of sonar data, which needed advanced software to make sense of it. The team relied on artificial intelligence to help spot possible man-made objects hidden among countless natural ones on the ocean floor. "It's like searching for a needle in a haystack the size of Los Angeles," Romeo said during the operation. "Without AI to help with the analysis, we'd be stuck looking at sonar images for years." For the later missions in late 2024 and early 2025, the team brought in even more specialized tools. These included high-definition cameras that could function under intense pressure and mechanical arms designed to grab samples or artifacts if needed. One of the most advanced features was the navigation system. It allowed these underwater vehicles to stay in the exact spot even without GPS and despite ocean currents. By using inertial navigation, Doppler velocity logs, and occasional surface communication, the autonomous vehicles could track their position within just a few meters, even several kilometers below the surface. This new wave of deep-sea exploration technology didn't just make it possible to locate Earhart's plane. It's also changing how we explore the deepest parts of the ocean. The sonar hit in January 2024 was only the starting point for confirming the find. Solid evidence from multiple sources was required before making any definitive claims. Throughout 2024 and into early 2025, the Deep Sea Vision team and its partners carried out a series of follow-up investigations that became more detailed over time. In November 2024, the first major obstacle appeared. New sonar images hinted that the object might be an undiscovered rock formation. This setback showed just how tricky it is to read sonar data from such extreme depths. However, improved processing techniques later revealed aircraft features that clearly weren't natural. In December 2024, the team returned to the site with better tools. This time, they used high-resolution cameras attached to remotely operated vehicles that could get close to the ocean floor. These cameras captured the first clear images of the object nearly 16,000 feet below. The control room went silent when the first pictures came in, said marine archaeologist Sarah Chen, who was part of the verification mission. It was definitely an aircraft, and the twin-tail design made it clear it was the Lockheed Electra. The aluminum surface was corroded, but the shape of the airframe stood out. The photos showed several key features that lined up with Earhart's plane. The measurements matched the Electra's 55-foot length and 38-foot wingspan. The landing gear setup was consistent, and the unique engine mount structures were still partly in place. In early 2025, a third mission brought equipment designed to collect small samples and run on-site material analysis. Spectrographic testing confirmed aluminum alloys that matched 1930s aircraft manufacturing. Even more convincing was a partial serial number found on one piece that corresponded with Earhart's Electra. The location also backed up the finding. The wreckage was almost exactly where the dateline theory predicted, about 100 meters west of Howland Island. Simulations involving fuel use, weather patterns, and flight paths matched this site perfectly with Earhart's final reported position on the 157 to 337 line. We can now say with over 95% certainty that we've found Amelia Earhart's Lockheed Electra, said Tony Romeo during a February 2025 press event, where he was joined by representatives from the Smithsonian Institution and aviation historians. Given the location, the type of plane, its size, and the identifying details, there's very little room left for other explanations. Although some pieces remain on the seafloor due to how difficult it is to recover them, the combination of photos and lab analysis has convinced most experts that this decades-long mystery is finally over. While the discovery by Deep Sea Vision made international news and seemed to confirm the theory that Earhart crashed at sea, another team was investigating a different possibility at the same time. Since January 2025, Dr. Richard Pettigrew, who leads the Archaeological Legacy Institute in Eugene, Oregon, has been guiding a group focused on Nikumaroro, formerly called Gardner Island. This remote atoll lies around 400 miles southeast of Howland Island. The Nikumaroro theory has long competed with the crash at sea idea. It suggests that after missing Howland Island, Earhart and Noonan may have still had enough fuel to reach Nikumaroro. According to this idea, they may have lived there as castaways before eventually dying. Dr. Pettigrew's 10-member research team concentrated on what they called the Terra object, a shiny metallic anomaly on the island's northern shoreline. Satellite and drone footage hinted that this could be plane wreckage. Many others have searched and failed. But someone is going to find something eventually, Dr. Pettigrew told reporters, recognizing the difficulties past expeditions have faced. During the summer of 2025, the team uncovered several items that raised interest. They found pieces of aluminum consistent with 1930s airplane parts, fragments of plexiglass that matched the Electra's windows, and personal objects like a compact case that could have stored freckle cream, something Earhart was known to use. The most surprising find was a partial fingerprint left on a worn leather object. Forensic experts are now comparing it with Earhart's prints from her pilot license records. Early tests suggest there might be a match, but final confirmation is still pending. Although the findings at first appeared to conflict with the deep ocean discovery, researchers now support a single, combined explanation. According to this theory, the main fuselage and one of the wings sank in the ocean, as identified by deep-sea vision. Meanwhile, another part of the aircraft, possibly a wing or tail section that broke off during a water landing, was carried by ocean currents to Nikumaroro. These same currents have made the island a natural collection point for debris from across the Pacific. We're no longer dealing with opposing ideas, but pieces of the same puzzle, said Dr. Pettigrew in a joint statement with Tony Romeo in March 2025. The findings from both sites together form a fuller picture of what likely occurred in those final moments. This teamwork signals a new phase in Earhart research, with groups that were once competing now working together, sharing both their data and recovered artifacts. The goal is to put together a clearer version of the aviator's last flight, one that blends ideas from theories that previously seemed to contradict each other. With real evidence now coming from both the ocean floor and Nikumaroro, researchers in 2025 have started forming a reasonable timeline of what happened to Earhart and Fred Noonan, using pieces from multiple theories to build a consistent story. The reconstruction begins with Earhart's final confirmed radio message at 8:43 a.m., where she said she was flying along the 157 to 337 line of position. Based on fuel estimates and the dead reckoning theory, experts today believe Earhart was roughly 100 miles west of where she thought she was, searching for Howland Island while running low on fuel. A navigation mistake caused by the international dateline placed them in an entirely different zone than expected, explained aviation historian Dr. Martin Jeff, who is helping with the current analysis. By the time they figured out the mistake, there likely wasn't enough fuel left to change course. Flight simulations using weather patterns from July 2, 1937, indicate that Earhart had about 30 minutes of flight time left after her final transmission. Given her experience, she would have used that time to prepare for a water landing while the plane still had enough fuel to stay stable. The condition of the wreckage found by deep-sea vision supports the idea that she tried to land the plane in a controlled way on the ocean's surface. The debris pattern suggests the aircraft stayed mostly intact upon hitting the water, pointing to a smooth landing rather than a violent crash. The spread of the parts suggests she did what trained pilots are taught, landing parallel to the ocean swells to reduce impact. Tony Romeo confirmed this after reviewing high-resolution maps of the site. It was a textbook emergency landing under extreme conditions. What happened next is more uncertain, but some details are supported by the evidence. The leading theory now is that after the plane landed, it floated for some time, possibly several hours or even longer. During this time, strong ocean currents started pulling it apart. Some lighter parts, like sections of the wing or tail, and some contents, likely broke off and were carried to Nikumaroro by the currents, explaining the artifacts found there. The heavier parts of the aircraft, including the fuselage, eventually filled with water and sank. Whether Earhart and Noonan lived through the water landing is still not known. Some researchers think they may have gathered emergency gear and tried to use the plane as a raft, which could explain why some personal items seem to have been removed from the wreckage. Others believe they might have died either on impact or shortly afterward. The evidence doesn't give us a clear answer about their fate, Dr. Jeff said. But we now know what happened to the plane itself, a question that has gone unanswered for almost 90 years. Understanding why Amelia Earhart's disappearance continues to capture so much attention requires looking at the larger picture. Her story went beyond aviation and became a symbol that reflected shifts in American culture throughout the 20th and early 21st centuries. She vanished at a key moment in history, just before World War II, when America's role in the world was growing and traditional ideas about gender were being questioned. As one of the world's most well-known women at the time, Earhart represented both promise and disruption to the social order. Part of the reason the mystery endured is the timing of her disappearance. She vanished at the peak of her fame, when radio could spread news instantly across the world, but before television could offer visuals to go with the news. This gap allowed public interest to build and last, explained Dr. Samantha Michaels, a historian focused on 20th-century American culture. Her disappearance also happened during rising political tensions in the Pacific, which later led to World War II. That timing led to conspiracy theories suggesting Japanese involvement, stories that stayed around for decades, even though no evidence supports them. Each new generation has seen Earhart's story in a different way. In the 1940s and 1950s, she was seen as a patriotic figure who may have given her life for her country. In the 1970s, the feminist movement highlighted her as a trailblazer who defied traditional gender roles. More recently, some have praised her as an LGBTQ+ icon, citing her independence and non-traditional lifestyle, though not all historians agree with that view. Her story became a reflection of our relationship with technology, both our excitement about new advances and our concerns about the risks that come with them. Earhart's disappearance showed both the strength of human innovation and the limits we still face when nature takes over. Unsolved cases like hers remind us that no matter how far technology goes, we don't have all the answers, said Tony Romeo. That's part of why finding her plane matters so much. It helps close a story that has remained open for generations. Solving the mystery doesn't take away from Earhart's impact. It brings closure to a narrative that has mirrored the hopes and anxieties of American society during nearly a century of constant change. So thanks for watching this video. If you found it informative, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content.